she came up to me and started talking, and I literally, it was like Charlie Brown, wonk, 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 because I didn't hear a word she said. It was very funny. And she spent over 2 hours with me and gave
Wow.
me a tour of the lab and showed me where she works in
Uh-huh.
her studio and everything. And every time I went there, was hoping that she'd be there because she was often in the framing studio, not in the front counter area.
Hmm.
A lot of times when I come there, she just happened to be in the.
She'd see like you were coming in.
I always wore this ring on this finger, and she thought I was already with someone. And
Mhm.
she was talking, and this is going to be really funny because roommate, the word roommate,
Yes.
right? Now we all
Mhm.
know what that code means, kind of
Mhm.
thing. And she said to me, "Oh, my roommate's brother lives in New York, and he said we can come down anytime to visit. I think I should do that sometime." And as soon as she said roommate, I was like, "Oh, we're
It's
done.
over. It's
We're done
over.
here. We're
Yeah.
done."
Welcome to Graphic Content, the podcast where we talk all things who, why, and the what the moments along the way. Now, today's guest is a commercial photographer turned creative entrepreneur who has built a career defined by reinvention, community, and a fearless pursuit of new passions. After years in the world of fashion photography, she shifted into fine art, where a pivotal exhibition not only changed her creative path, but also led her to meet her wife and business partner. Together, they co founded Akasha Art Projects, now in its 16th year, serving hospitality, design, and corporate worlds while also nurturing Toronto's arts community through exhibitions, cultural fundraisers, and most recently, their magazine Art House. Beyond her work as creative director, she continues to push boundaries, from launching her own clothing brand to pursuing a DJ career at 60, proving it's never too late to be what you might have been. Welcome to Graphic Content, Sonja Scharf.
Thank you,
Yes.
Gio. That's a lovely introduction. My goodness. Thank you very much.
Well, you gave me a lot to work with. I'll say that there was a lot, and there's so much I wanted to cover and to summarize. And so how do I do that effectively without leaving out the good bits?
Right. Great. Well, thank you.
You're thanking me, but I have to thank you. And I've had some feedback from a couple of listeners being like, "You got to stop downplaying yourself. Like you got to basically like live it to be it, breathe it."
Yes. Yes.
But I still can't get over the fact that like I asked you randomly at the conference in June at the CGLCC conference, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it and see. And you said yes, and to me that was
Oh,
like a like
wow.
to me you're a
Well,
big deal.
oh, oh my God. Okay. I mean, I'm honored. Like, honestly, I'm honored by being asked. So, uh, thank you for that.
We started talking a little bit before this and just discussing like our passions and the things that we like
Mhm.
to do, and basically we're kind of the same where I
Yeah.
want to do this. Let me just make it happen.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I've always been a very go for it, ambitious kind of person. I'm not a procrastinator
Mm-mm.
I'm the opposite of a procrastinator, actually. As soon as I come up with an idea, I'm like, I want to start now, and I will go, research or whatever. So it can sometimes be a bit much because I have a lot on my plate at all times, and sometimes it's a bit, you know, close to burnout. But I'm trying to juggle it all, and I just like too many things. You know multidisciplinary passions, and I just don't want to not do everything. And
Hmm.
it particularly came to light when my mother sadly was diagnosed with dementia 6 years ago. And when that happened, and my mother was a very big go-getter. She owned her own business. She was she belonged to a senior cycling group. Like, she did so many things. And watching her, basically deteriorate has been really hard. And it's just made me even push my heels in more to say, whatever I want to do, I am going to go for it, because I just don't want to get to the end and say, oh, I wish I would have did that, or I wish I would have tried that. You know what I mean? So, it's basically feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because
Yeah,
there's some things like when I started DJing, there was fear. You have to push yourself, otherwise you don't grow. So that was kind of the impetus for some of the things I've been doing lately.
I feel you on that. I in the last like year or two, I've gotten to the point where it's been ingrained in me where, I'm designer.
Hmm.
That's my identity. I am a
Hmm.
designer and or my
Hmm.
career path.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, I can be a multi-hyphenate. I can do
Hundred,
multiple things.
100%. And what
Hmm.
a great word that is. Actually, multi-hyphenate is
Hmm.
fantastic. Yes, yes. You can do
Yeah.
many things. Yeah.
Like you said, like we have one life, like, beliefs in
Yeah.
reincarnation aside.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
but truly, like we have this one life right now. I want to maximize the things that I'm doing. I also
Right.
to experience only one thing over and over and over again to me is so boring.
Oh, yeah. And I am like that too. I get bored very quickly if I
Hmm.
don't continually challenge, learn, move forward. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. So
When's your birthday?
I'm an Aquarian, so January 31st.
I love that.
Aquarians.
Uh-huh, I do. I
They
have
do
quite
tend
a
to
few.
they do tend to, think out of the box and be a bit unconventional, right? So
I love
I've
it.
never I've never clicked that box my whole life. So, my upbringing was very different because, we came to Canada when I was young and we went back and forth several times. And my father was a jazz musician, so I grew up in a household that was all about jazz. And we used to have incredible people like jazz musicians coming over, and our house was full of like very interesting people,
Mhm.
bohemians, writers, actors, musicians, all the time. And there was a lot of that type of influence around me all the time, and I was in awe of everybody all the time. Everybody that was like a writer or they were this. And it was that kind of life where
Yeah.
we didn't live a normal. A lot of people asked me if my father was in the army, and I'm like, no, we were actually I was born and mostly raised in Germany, and we came to Canada and back and forth because there wasn't a big jazz scene in Canada in the 60s like there was in Germany. When they were here, they were homesick for Germany. When they were in Germany, they wanted to come back to Canada. It was
Yeah.
very funny. But it shaped a lot of my life and the way I am. And, so I'm grateful for a lot of that. So
And so what made Canada stick?
we were told by the immigration officer, this is the story I got from my parents, is that Winnipeg was a great place to raise children,
Mm,
Manitoba. So we originally immigrated to Montreal, but then we moved to Winnipeg. And even though my father was a professional jazz musician, he still had another career because obviously jazz didn't pay
yeah.
100%. My father was a pastry chef, and
I love that.
he worked in some very high end in Germany. Pastry, and like in France, is very big. Like there's bakeries at every corner and pastry
Hmm.
shops, and the pastries are gorgeous. And my father also got into chocolate sculpting, so he was entering competitions. And eventually I think my mother wanted to stay in Winnipeg and my father wanted to go back to Europe, and it ended their marriage. And so my father went back to Europe and lived there till he passed away, and my mom stayed in Winnipeg. So she is in Winnipeg now. I think if the two countries were really close together, it would have been great, like, just drive to Germany for the
Hmm.
weekend.
Yeah.
But it didn't work like that. So, and I still have a very close family there, so I'm very connected. And I speak the language. It's my first language, and a lot of the way my cooking, although I don't eat meat, I still do a lot of German style of food and use German products. And so I think European lifestyle is very much part of my life. Yeah.
You and
So
I have so much in common because so
mhm.
I'm first generation. I'm not immigrant, but my parents are. Right now, as we speak, I have relatives from Italy who are visiting.
Oh,
And
that's so lovely.
it is lovely because it's
Yeah.
an opportunity for me as somebody who
Hmm.
I grew up the Italian dialect that my parents spoke was spoken in the house. Like
Yes.
I didn't start really speak like English. English wasn't really a thing until I started going to school. And
Yeah, that's the
so
same.
my cousin who's visiting, I haven't seen her in
Oh,
literally
that's so lovely.
20 years. And so we got to reconnect and it's been really, really nice. This is my father's niece. Leading up to this visit, I was a little nervous because I don't really flex my Italian. Like I
Oh,
speak here and there to my nonna, and
okay.
then my parents, we are primarily English. Like I don't really speak to Italian to my parents. And so coming into it, I was like, okay, like I gotta dig up the old bones, and get into it. And it was really surprising to me how
Mhm.
it really came
Quickly?
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
it's
I mean,
nice.
I don't it's the same. I don't speak German very often at all because I don't
Mhm.
have anybody here to speak German
Right.
to. When I call Winnipeg and my mom's husband holds the phone, I talk to her in German because I feel like it
Mhm.
helps with her dementia.
Absolutely.
And then I'm very close to my cousin in Germany, and he was here for Pride this year, which was awesome. And he speaks really, really good English. Like he works for the German Deutsche Bahn, which is just like Via Rail,
Mhm.
and so he's very well spoken in English too. But when we talk, him and I, it's all we always talk in German, and
Mhm.
it keeps up the language.
It does.
And it's the same thing. Once I start talking, it just comes back. But
Oh yeah.
you know, you're a little rusty, and then it's just back. Right? It's just that kind of thing.
I love it. To me, and
Yeah.
you kind of touched on that, like having like a foot in both doors, almost, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
where you're here but you're
Mm-hmm.
there, and
Mm-hmm.
being immersed in, being forced to speak. Like I'm like I gotta get back to Italy. Like I gotta go back. It's been a hot minute.
Well, when you're first immigrating, your parents do not speak English,
No.
so my language at home until I was in my, like, probably 12 or 13 was German.
Hmm.
And every summer they flew me back home to visit my Oma because that
That's
was my
nice.
Oma and I were very close. So I was lived there all summer. So I never lost the language. And then when I was around 18, I actually went back to Germany with the intention of moving there by myself,
Hmm.
and I lived and worked there for a year and was there, in my hometown of Darmstadt, which is near Frankfurt. And I was there for a year and, living and everything. And then, so I think that helped a lot because my language was still with me when I was already pretty much an adult. Because if you're a young child, you lose it, because my siblings don't speak the language at all. They understand, but they don't speak it because they're much younger. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's the perfect segue. You started out as a photographer. What drew you to photography in the first place? Like, what did those early years around
Mhm.
the world in fashion photography look like for you?
Because my family was very artistic, not just musical, but my parents both painted. My
Mhm.
brother is a super realist painter. Like I'm always in awe of how lifelike his paintings are. And I've never been able to really draw, to be honest with you. Like I'm just not a drawer that way.
Mhm.
And so I picked up a camera because I felt like, well, maybe this is because I always had an urge to create art and make something like that creative. A friend loaned me a camera years and years ago, film. I started creating scenes basically of portraits of friends of mine. And most of my work, they look like Renaissance paintings,
Mm.
kind of like the feelings here. I'm very influenced by like Caravaggio and all the painters, and the pre-Raphaelite paintings
Yes.
and things. So that was my work early on, and I didn't know what I was doing. Really, truthfully, I didn't know anything. I didn't know an f-stop from a shutter speed or whatever. But then I actually decided to go to school and make it a career. And because I've always been into clothes and fashion, my whole, like, from an early age. My grandmother was a seamstress. I learned a lot of stuff from her. She was a bit of a fashionista, my Oma. So when I did go to photography school, I decided that I wanted my specialty to be fashion. So I graduated in 1990 and started the beginnings of what I was hoping to be a fashion photography career. At the time, I lived in Vancouver. I've lived all over Canada. It's crazy, but I lived in Vancouver. I did assisting first because I really wanted to make sure I worked for some big name shooters that I knew
Yeah.
what it was like. And that really was helpful. And then I started slowly getting some work myself. When I moved to Toronto, my intention was to continue, like, really try to build up my career here with shooting and my portfolio and stuff. And I was getting some work, and I had a photo studio over on Carlaw Avenue where all the photographers were gathered in that time in the late 90s. Everybody was over on Carlaw and Queen area, and there was big lofts there and they were still affordable. And I shared my studio with, I think it was about 5 other photographers, and there was 2 big dark rooms. And it was a time when photography was still so analog, and
Mm-hmm.
the rumblings of digital were there. I mean, some
Mm-hmm.
people had, of course, embraced it, but we were still hanging on to, I was hanging on to, for dear life, to analog until the bitter end. Till there was no more film, no more paper. Now it's actually is making a comeback,
Oh.
but at the time, it was like literally every time I went to go get more film or more paper, there was less and less to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So it was at that time that I started to think more about my work, and my work was very editorial, and commercially it was not really selling because it was too artistic. That's what I was getting a lot of.
I love it
So I
though.
thought, well, I'm going to take this to the next level and really see where this goes artistically. And that's kind of where I sort of transitioned from commercial work to fine art work.
During that era, what was the energy like around that time for you in your life? Like, how did you feel as far as what was in the future for artists and creatives?
Most photographers shared studio space unless you were like big names and you had shoots every single day. Some of the shooters that were in the studio space did a lot of on location shooting, so they didn't need the studio space all the time, but they needed the
Mhm.
dark rooms. And then some people, like I, needed the studio space and outside and back and forth. So it was more affordable to be sharing with thing. And I was very lucky to be sharing the studio with some very big name Toronto based photographers who were also not just shooting commercially, but doing fine art as well. So there was a lot of creative energy in that space, and
I
everybody
love it.
supported each other. And, I would usually do something and then run it by a photographer next to me and show them the contact sheets. We had time at that time, we had contact sheets, do my first edits and then get a second opinion. And everybody was there while because I used to make all my own costumes and my props and stuff for my work. They'd see me doing crazy things like making big giant angel wings with feathers and
I
things like
love
that.
it.
And so they'd always see me doing something. And it was kind of fun because people would always say, oh, I love that fabric that you're going to use as a backdrop. And so you got a lot of that creative energy going, and it really really helps when you're in that environment, because that kind of environment just makes you want to make more work. So that was I have very fond memories of that time in my life. So
At a certain point, like you started moving from editorial towards more fine art photography. And so,
hmm
like, talk to me a little bit about that era and like what led to that. Like, where did that come from?
well, that came from wanting to explore, to make more art rather than just be a commercial, do commercial work, which
Mhm.
often involves an art director, and you don't have as much artistic creative freedom.
Yeah.
Deciding to do my own work really gave me that freedom of artistic whatever. And in the beginning, I decided to go for it like I always do, and I started creating work. And by the time I had a good 8 pieces or whatever, I started submitting work to New York galleries. I was like, I'm just going right to New
I'm
York.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
Right, because New York, as is basically the hub of art in the States. Like
Mhm.
in regards, especially photography was really big at that time, and I got some good feedback from some of the galleries. When I think back of it now, I think, oh my God, how brave like crazy that I did that,
I
because
love it.
imagine you're a big gallerist in New York and you get these pieces from somebody unknown in Toronto, and it's like, but I was really happy for all the feedback because I got some really really good feedback, and a personal note from one of the top gallerists that I really admired, said this is some of the he was really impressed with the work is what he said, and I was felt so honored, and actually kept me going to keep going. So I ended up creating a dozen pieces, and I sort of happenstance lucky enough to get my first solo show in Toronto at Edward Day Gallery, which was the gallery on Queen Street at the time in the early 2000s. I mean, Edward Day was very respected. Sadly, it's no longer open, but when it was definitely one of the galleries that I so admired. And when I got reached out to for a studio visit by the 2 curators who ran it, I was just wow. So anyway, it was great. It turned out.
I want to go back to what you said.
Mhm.
Why not you though? Like, why not you?
I know.
But like legit, like seriously,
What you said early on in our conversation about, like, you got to own it, but sometimes it's hard to own it,
it's
right?
hard. I
So
know, but
I think a lot of it was because I had just started too, and
Mhm.
I knew other people who were making art longer than me. And so that sort of, you start thinking like that, oh, I'm not there yet, and I have a lot
Mm-hmm.
more to do, whatever. So, but it was quite an amazing experience and a big coup, and that kind of kept me going. So like started the ball rolling on that.
Everyone has their own past, has their own experience that they bring to the table. And like, I don't know every detail of your past, but I'll say
Mhm.
this as somebody who, as a gay man, I'm like, I love it when a woman owns the out of who she is. And it's just like, yeah, I am that good. I'm going to go for it. To me, and I see that and I'm like, you're telling me this. I'm like, yes, like it makes so much sense as to why you're at where you're at. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I see this. I'm like, get
it's
it,
true,
babe.
but that's not what I was thinking at the
I know,
time.
right?
I sure wasn't thinking I'm that good. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and see. You know,
Hmm.
every artist, like know very few artists that are completely 100% confident in their work and what they do,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not questioning everything all the time. There's a few that are, obviously, but a lot of people I know, we're all question all the time. Confidence is like building a muscle. You
A
just have to keep,
hundred.
right? It's just a constant. So,
Yeah.
but so that was a big coup for me though, in the way that to get a solo show like that, I was just like, wow. So it was wonderful.
And so what kind of work did you show at the exhibit? Like what was the
Well,
theme or the topic?
yeah, it was called Divine Light, and it was all portraits of women that looked, well, they were settings, scenes, very very much based on Renaissance art. Like, a lot of I'm not sure if you can see, but
I
a
can,
lot
yeah.
of the type of portraits, and they were based in sort of like the Renaissance feel and the
Mhm.
pre-Raphaelite feel. Lots of fabrics and costumes that I made basically on the models, and they were a little bit like the old cowboy and western, where you front is the saloon but the back is just wood.
Mhm.
That's the way I did them. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't have time to do fittings, so
Yeah.
I would just like kind of, keep them open and close them. And the portraits were quite static, of course, because they women at that time were very, static. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what I did in photography. I've always been really big on lighting. That's my thing. So they're all lit very specifically, and lots of props and costumes and things. So that's what I did.
I love that you are not only doing the photography, but you're also designing the costumes. Renaissance woman, I don't even think begins to describe. You have so many things that you like to do.
I know. I'm like you. What did you call it? Hyphen.
Multi-hyphenate.
That's very much like that. Yeah. I used to go scouring secondhand stores for fabrics and, things like that.
We talked a little bit about the exhibit. This was a life-changing time for you, like not only for your career, but also personally. Can you talk a little bit about the story of meeting your now wife
Hmm.
and how
Hmm.
your creative and personal lives merged together?
It definitely was life changing, 100% in many ways. So it was a kind of a happenstance situation, because my lab that was directly across the street from me on Carla, where I mentioned we were,
Hmm.
had closed. So I had to find a new lab to do my work. I was researching labs. It's a lot longer story than this, but I'm going to give you a synopsis. I was researching some labs, and the lab that came up, which was one of the top labs in the city, was the lab that I thought, well, I think I'm going to work with them, because the reviews, rave reviews, everything like that. Because all my work was on film. So when I say lab, it's like photo lab, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And this particular photo lab was very multidisciplinary as well, because they offered everything from printing to framing. And I thought, well, I'll just use them for everything. And at the time, I knew nothing about picture framing at all. I had never really done much of it. I just, would buy things that were already framed or whatever. I never really paid that much attention, because commercial work, you don't really need frames too much, right? So
Hmm.
when I went there to talk to them, I had made an appointment with someone there. And when I got there, went to the counter, I walked in, and there was this woman on the phone behind the counter, and another woman who was taking care of me. And when I walked in and saw the woman on the phone, I was like, oh my goodness, who's that? I seriously said that in my mind. Oh, wow, who's that? Then she got off the phone and she walked past me, and my contact sheet was on the counter, and she sort of looked and she goes, "Nice work." And then she walked away. I was like, "Oh my goodness, wow." I started continuing my conversation with the person who was helping me and talking about my show and prints and everything. And then we finished that part, and I said, "Well, now I actually need to talk a little bit about framing because I don't know what to do with this
Yeah.
or how to, you know." And she said, "Well, let me get Kelly for you," which I didn't know this woman's name was Kelly, as you
Mm-hmm.
know. I just saw her. Literally, it was Kelly. And she came towards me, and as she was walking from a long hallway towards me, and I saw her, and I went, "Oh my goodness, that's the framer." Right? And she came up to me and started talking, and I literally, it was like Charlie Brown. Wonk, 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 because I didn't hear a word she said. It was very funny. And now I know it was mutual because
Yes, of
she
course.
really had a lot of work to do. She spent over 2 hours with me and gave
Wow.
me a tour of the lab and showed me where she works in
Uh-huh.
her studio and everything. And every time I went there, was hoping that she'd be there because she was often in the framing studio, not in the front counter area.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when I come there, she just happened to be in the.
She'd see like you were coming in.
And it was very funny because I always wore this ring on this finger just
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. It's just happened to be.
Yeah.
And she thought I was already with someone, and
Mm-hmm.
she was talking, and this is going to be really funny because roommate, the word roommate,
Yes.
right? Now we
Mm-hmm.
all know what that code means, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And nowadays, if some friends say, "What are you talking about?" Nobody does that anymore. I said, "I know, but remember, this was 21 years ago."
Yeah.
And she said to me, my roommate and I were planning because I was going to New York the following week to visit a friend of mine and do some gallery hopping and stuff. And she said to me, "Oh, my roommate's brother lives in New York, and he said we can come down anytime to visit. I think I should do that sometime." And as soon as she said roommate, I was like, "Oh, we're
It's
done.
over. It's
We're done
over.
here. We're
Yeah.
done." And it was very funny because my best friend at the time, who I've sadly lost a few years ago to cancer, she called me and she goes, "Were you there today?" And I said, "Yes." "Did you ask her out?" And I said, "No, because she's taken. Like, I'm not even going to
She
go
has a
there.
roommate.
She's got a roommate." And she also said, "Are you kidding me? Nobody says that anymore." I'm like, yeah, she's in a professional environment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, it was very funny. But long story short, it was a comedy of errors. And when I got back from New York, she had realized what she had said because someone pointed out to her at work that you may have just said something that she misinterpreted,
Yeah,
right?
you axed it before it even started.
Right. So she was like, "Oh no, I got to figure out how to fix this." And the cutest line ever, when I came back from New York, I went there because I had to meet with her for the another design thing. I went to the counter and I saw her and she goes, "Oh, you're back. How was New York?" And I said, "It was fabulous. I had a great time, great galleries, blah blah blah." And I said, "Well, how was your weekend?" You know, and she goes, "Oh, I went to a movie alone." And it was the cutest thing. And I looked at her and she goes, "Yep, all alone."
Yeah, you hear that? Let me repeat myself.
So it was after that that we sort of started talking about going on a date. And that's
Hmm.
what we did. And it was very cute. And we had our first date 21 years ago, September 3rd. So that was a long time now.
Wow.
It's one of those memories that you remember every detail. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
when things happen that are so profound, you remember every detail. And that was, everything around that 2004, my show, meeting Kelly, it was all life changing. So you just remember all the details. So, and here we are now, all these years later.
How has that impact of that time in your life shifted the trajectory of your life to where you are now? Like, what would you say was the most pivotal thing within that time that has led you to today?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it was Kelly and I deciding to go into business together.
Mhm.
We were actually, we started together as hanging art installation. And we sort of fell into that because we volunteered for the tsunami fundraiser at a gallery. That's how long ago that
Yes.
tsunami was. And we volunteered. and we went to the space to start hanging art, and there was people there, lots of people there mingling, talking, and nobody had started hanging yet, and we didn't have a lot of time. So we were like, okay, let's just get this started, you and I. We can figure this out. And we did, and we had half the show hung before it actually started. And we were looked at each other and go, wow, this is kind of fun to hang art. Like, we know this isn't, and Kelly's always been a handy person. I mean, she knows her tools. She's very, well, a cute saying her father used to call her handier than a pocket on a shirt.
Mm,
And she really is. Like, there is nothing she cannot engineer. It always amazes me, which comes in very handy in our business today, especially for a
yeah,
lot of very custom
100%.
custom projects we have. We started just calling ourselves Akasha Art Installation, and together her and I started doing these little jobs, residential but also corporate.
Hmm.
And then we started getting more and more projects. At the time we were doing that, Kelly also, because she's the master framer, she had left the lab and decided that she wanted to go out on her own. And she put a little studio in my studio space, the photography studio. And she had private clients only. It was not retail. It was, people were coming, making appointments with her, whatever.
Hmm.
She was still building her little custom framing business, and we were doing art installation, and I was doing photography. So it was kind of like all together, it was keeping us going. And then we sort of started talking about, maybe we decide, I did decide to fold my commercial practice 100%. It was just getting harder and harder to get work, especially being an analog photographer, because digital was really
Ramping up.
chomping at the, coming up fast. And I was teaching darkroom techniques at Humber College for some time, evening courses. And then they called me and said, "Oh, we're taking all the darkrooms out, and we're going to ask you to teach digital." And I was like, I can't. I don't know anything about
Yeah.
Photoshop. I don't know anything about digital. And so I quit that as well. And I thought, you know what? It's inevitable. I either have to learn this and do this, or I'm going to pursue my art.
Hmm.
And I really decided to continue pursuing my art rather than do the other thing. And at that time, Kelly and I thought about also maybe opening a framing business
Yeah,
together. And just coincidentally, or, I consider it synchronicity, because I believe in synchronicities.
I do
Uh,
too.
a very dear friend of ours was on Church Street. He lived upstairs above, Dudley's hardware store.
Hmm.
On the second floor, there was a little office space coming available, and he lived upstairs, so he knew it was coming up. And our neighbor was actually Fab Magazine at the
Oh my
time.
God, throwback.
Right? Throwback. So we went to look at the space, and it was a perfect size for us. It was small. The rent was super affordable. And we
Hmm.
thought, well, why don't we just take Kelly's sort of personalized studio and move it in there and try to get a little bit more work. And together we kind of thought, okay, well, we're going to join forces and try to build this.
Yeah,
And in the beginning, it was really naive, like very,
but that's how it
we,
starts.
yeah, we did all the painting and renovation and building tables, but it was just Kelly and I.
Hmm.
And there was many times that we were in our space just wishing somebody would come up the stairs,
Yeah.
right? But being on the second floor business is not easy, especially new, when you're brand new and stuff. But we managed to do it. A lot of people knew us through the community and doing things and events and things. And then Fab Magazine decided to leave. Vaguely, I think Extra was in there too for a bit.
I think they were together.
They were together, exactly. And then one day, we were 1 year in business, and it was just, a very slow momentum, but enough to keep Kelly busy, because
Hmm.
I didn't know anything about how to put things together, or, frame or do anything, but she did all that work. And I sort of was the, client service person. They came over and they said, we're moving. We want to sublet our space. Would you be interested in taking over more space? And we always wanted to have a gallery. We talked about that all the time. We were like, if we had a bigger space, wouldn't it be nice to have a gallery with openings and, whatever? So Kelly was just like, what do I have to do to make this happen?
Yeah.
Right? We've only been in business 1 year. We can't take over that much more rent right away without even, whatever. And again, a synchronistic situation happened. The Church Wellesley BIA at the time was in an office down the street, and they were experiencing mold in their office. And we
Mm,
knew the fellow who was the head at that time. That was like, 16 years ago. We've been in business. And he came up to us and he said, "Would you guys know of any, office for rent? Keep your ear open. I need to move." And Kelly was like, "This office is for rent."
yeah.
And that's how it happened. And so he moved in there, and we got along with him really well. He was the BIA there, and we still kept the rest of the space, and we opened a gallery. So we ended up having a gallery space, which that space up there was beautiful, arched windows, and the lighting was gorgeous. It was a heritage space, and so that was the beginning of the gallery portion. Fast forward, we were there about 7 years. We just thought, we have to move, we need to grow, and we wanted to add more things. We were getting busier, and we wanted to add more offerings, right? Not just do only picture framing, but be a full service
Yeah.
studio kind of thing. And so what ended up happening is, in the building where I'm talking to you from now is where our space is, and we live upstairs on the third floor.
Hmm.
And we've always lived here even before the studio was downstairs. So when the tenant that was downstairs vacated, we were offered the space. Like, would you think you could do something with this space? And it was very broken up because there was an apartment at the back, and there was like, levels and things. We went in there one day, and we just sat there, and we looked around, and we sort of felt the energy, and we were like, you know what, we can do this. And we thought about it becoming sort of like, the look of a Chelsea, New York gallery, where a
Love it.
lot of the galleries in Chelsea, New York are like two levels almost, and they have like a mezzanine. So we created this vision board with like our railing, which was stainless steel and glass, and then like this open space with a big floating wall facing the window. And when we sort of said, okay, we're going to go for it, we're going to do this, we're going to dive in now, or it's just going to be where we are.
Hmm.
So we did, and we did all our own demolition because we didn't have that lots and lots of money to spend, but we ended up being able to afford the rent, like just the rental portion,
Yeah.
and the move and everything. And as soon as we moved here, we added our fine art printing department because we took over the loft space at the back, which is a freestanding building. And then we have the basement, which is our wood shop. We basically kept expanding.
Yeah.
We sometimes pinch ourselves from where we started to where we are now. It's like, I don't know how that happened, but we learned a lot, along the way. So,
The way you're talking about like the trajectory of Akasha,
yeah.
to me, that is how you do it. Boots on the ground, you're in it, you're part of it, you're creating it from the ground up, you're
Yep.
immersing yourself in all aspects of the business. That to
Exactly.
me is how you build something that is long standing, that will
Yes.
stand the test of time. Because if I'm not in it, and if I'm not part of it, and I'm not breathing it, I'm not experiencing all of it, it's disconnected for me.
Oh, yes. Yes, 100%. Yeah. It's quite interesting the way it grew. And then we had a very functional gallery up until COVID. And actually, I was in that show because it was an International Women's Day exhibition. And there was three women artists, including myself, with my type of work. And then actually Kate McLean right here behind me.
Hmm.
Her work is she's a painter, but it so works together. And there was another artist involved as well. And the three of us were in this. And then we had our art opening, and 3 days later we had to close our doors, and we sort of decided to change the gallery model, and we had a few pop-ups. And the last couple of years we didn't do anything because we were opening a second location in Prince Edward County, which
Hmm.
was another story. Now we're going back to pop-ups, and next week we have our first pop-up. We're very excited, and we're going to start doing that again. Like, it's pop-up, and either a guest curator or an artist pop-up, or even other things. We've had fashion shows in our space. We've had a few things that are very interesting, so it doesn't necessarily only need to be a gallery exhibition. So that's what we're planning now, moving into 2026.
From what you're saying, there's so many different aspects of
Hmm.
community, whether it's fashion, whether it's
Yeah.
commercial, whether it's community engagement. So, like, for you, why was the community piece such an important part of Akasha?
So one of the things we really set sort of a intention when we started our business is that we wanted to be able to give back to our community, and the way we could do it was by sponsoring art auctions and fundraising auctions and things like that. So very early on, we started being open to that. Over the years, we've done Buddies, Snap for Act, Inside Out Film Festival, and other fundraisers. And so that has been a very important part of our community. I don't think we'll ever stop that. We're always willing to donate something, or if it's something that's near and dear to our
Mhm.
hearts, we'll gladly do that. So you do need to give back, which is basically the same as giving thanks and gratitude.
With that said, I feel like you've given so much to the community. I've experienced moments where the community has given back to you. Like, how do you
Yes.
feel where the tides are turning in the sense that that energy, that love that you put out is now coming back to you?
We have a lot of support, I have to say. We're very blessed with really wonderful clients. We do all work for everybody. I mean, definitely hospitality and design work is a big portion of our business, but we have lots of residential clients and collectors and members of our community and allies and the people who are not members of our community. We have a very, very nice client base, and we have a wonderful team. Our staff is amazing. The art openings really helped give us exposure. A
Hmm.
lot of people were coming to art openings and then seeing that we did this framing and things, because at that time we only did framing, we didn't have all the other elements. People would come back with work or whatever, and so that the art openings definitely were responsible for a lot of exposure to our business. We used to have a packed house almost every Thursday of an opening, and it was great. We had such diverse artists and such really cool pieces and works and installations, and that really really helped bring exposure to our business.
Which led to you winning an award at the CGLCC Summit. I have to ask, how did that come to be? Because you were the
We
one
didn't
who.
know. No, because you know what, because we're the ones who frame the awards, right? Well, what happened is, it's so funny because when we were given, and a shout out to Patrick Hunter for his beautiful work that we
Yes,
frame.
who also was on the podcast.
I know, I saw. Yeah, he's so wonderful. I remember getting the names of the winners, and I said to Kelly, "That's odd. This year there seems to be only 3 winners." And I said, "Maybe they cut out a category." And she goes, "Yeah, maybe, because we only have 3 names for the plates, the metal plates that go
Hmm.
on." So no, that's the only thing I said about it. And she said, and then we continued to frame them, and we brought them to the awards at the business summit. And it was very cute because Jessica Gray from RBC, she was the one who was giving the award. We
Hmm.
were having lunch outside, and she kept coming over and going, "Why are you two sitting out here by yourselves? You should be in the ballroom." And we were
Hmm.
like, "Oh, okay." We were just having a moment to talk and just have a little lunch or whatever. And she goes, "Come inside." And so we thought, okay, well, we don't want to be antisocial. So we went inside, we sat down because the awards were starting 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
We were like just at the table with a bunch of people. We had no inkling whatsoever. And the awards came up, and all of a sudden we hear our names. And I think both of us, I think our necks went, "What?"
I know, I remember.
It was so funny. And Peter Hawkins, who was in the room
Hmm.
too, he actually filmed us the whole way going up on stage. And we were just floored because we had no idea. So what they did is they sneakily got one of those wooden plaque awards
Hmm.
as a stand-in, because now we are framing our own awards. But it was very cute, and they did it in such a great way. So surprised, and I mean, Kelly got teared up. She was tearing up because we were quite like, "Oh my goodness, what an honor," and everything. So it was very nice. It felt really good.
And talk to me a little bit about what the award was for so that any of the listeners listening.
Sorry, it was the Community Builders Award.
Hmm.
So giving back to the community, and building community building and things like that. So, and yeah, so that was quite lovely, and we have it now displayed at our front desk here. And a number of our clients have commented on it, and we said yes, we're pretty honored. And
I remember being in the
goodness.
room. I was sitting next to Dan Snow, because I had no idea. And
Yeah,
when they said your name, we were
I
like
know.
I was getting emotional just seeing you two being so shocked, like walking up and being like, "Oh my god, no!" Like having no idea.
I have to say we both felt very happy and very honored for that
Yeah.
award. Yeah, yeah,
So part of this podcast is I like to
yeah.
talk to people about like what the moments? Like as entrepreneurs, as creatives, like we are all kind of carving out our own
Yeah.
paths, and it's not always the easiest. We've talked a lot about like the beautiful things that have come of your path, but
Yeah.
I want you to talk to me a little bit about like a what the moment that you've
Hmm.
experienced like running a business and how that went for you.
Well, we've had a few. In the beginning, mostly, we were two naive artists because Kelly's also an artist. She's a
Mhm.
photographer as well. She's a graduate of NASCAD, Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. Yeah. You went to
Sister to my,
NASCAD too?
I went to OCAD,
Okay.
a
So
sister school.
sister school. And so she's very creative. I mean, she does some very beautiful work too. The biggest was that we went into our business together completely naive as two artists and not two business people. That
Mm,
was the biggest thing. And we were like that for good beginnings of our years. We didn't know anything about margins and books and this and that or anything, we were just happy when somebody came up the stairs and did a placed an order. But the biggest was when we were in the need of a bookkeeper, and we at the beginning we didn't have enough invoices that we needed that, but then about our fifth year in business, and we asked somebody to refer us, and they referred us to this person who came and interviewed with us, and we were like, oh, they seem okay. Like, I think they'll be okay. They seem to know what they're doing. We didn't do any background checks. We didn't do any kind of like referral calls, just very naive. Oh,
yeah.
you're nice,
Hmm. Just
right?
going off vibes.
So funny. Anyways, so it ended up happening that it was the worst decision we ever made because this
Mm,
person didn't do a very good job and things were buried. And if they didn't know where to put something, they would just put it there or, whatever. So
right.
long story short, we got audited, and
Oh,
it was,
nightmare.
it was an eye opener to us, an eye opener that we realized we cannot be that naive in business.
Yeah.
If we want to keep growing with this business, we have got to get it together and figure
Hmm.
this out properly. So Kelly took some business courses. We both learned some things, and that's will never happen to us again. We're pretty strict. Kelly works very closely with our current bookkeeper, and we're very very on it, and everything's by the books and on and or whatever. Sometimes people who go into business, and I mean, we're the worst, we did that ourselves. My biggest advice is when it comes to money and your finances for your business,
Yeah.
just be so careful, really careful and really thoughtful on what you do or who you hire or whatever. And it was shortly thereafter that we incorporated. So we were not incorporated at that time, which was good. And even then we wouldn't know the difference between a partnership and an incorporation. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
we just were like, we just want to do the creative stuff.
Yeah.
Right, like most artists.
Yeah.
And now we realize you can't survive like that. You have to know what you're doing, and it's a lot different now, but we laugh sometimes when we think back about the naivety. That definitely is something that was a WTF moment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too. Like me going into this, like I was like, I'm a designer. I'm gonna make like whatever. I'm an artist. And then now, almost 9 years later, I've been in
You're
business, and
like,
I'm like
yeah,
Jesus. Like the
there's so
stuff.
much.
There's so much to learn. And at the
Yeah.
beginning, it was very much like I don't
Yeah.
want to think about it. That's not for me.
That's
And
how
then,
we were. That's exact. Oh, we were like buried your head in the sand.
hmm,
Oh, that's not so interesting to me. This is much more interesting over here.
yeah,
Well, you neglect this over here, you don't
uh
have
huh,
this over here. You know what I mean? Like,
a
that's
hundred
basically
percent.
it.
We're talking a little bit about like the early days of figuring it out and getting to where you need to be. So let's fast forward to today,
Yeah.
where you're launching Art House, your new magazine. Where did that come from? Like, where did that idea come from, and like what makes it different from
Okay.
the past newsletters and the blogs that you've done in
Yes.
the past?
And that's exactly what it is I just felt like the newsletters and the blogging was getting old, stale, and I felt like, every month writing a newsletter on things, happening or whatever. I just wanted to do something that people were looking forward to reading. I came up with the idea of doing a digital magazine. I wanted to cover three of my favorite subjects: art, design, and fashion.
Yes.
And I thought those three subjects most people really enjoy. So, together with my social media director, Anthony, I started, sort of outlined what I was looking for in this magazine. And I wanted it to be really sleek and clean and really informative. And I immediately set out a few names of people I wanted to highlight and profile in each of those categories. Our first issue launched in April. We're planning to do 4 issues a year because it is quite comprehensive.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of pages, and we're just finishing up literally next week our fall issue launches, and then we have one more issue at the end of the year, and then next year we'll be back on the cycle. I've gotten really good feedback on it, and I mean, I've never done a magazine. I've never been the editor of something, but I've been a curator many years
Yeah.
now, and so it's similar. Basically, try to set up interviews similar to this, but more typewritten things, and
Hmm.
yeah, the first 2 issues were really well received, and I think we're going to keep going with it. So we'll see how it goes. And literally, when it comes into your inbox, it is a flip like a magazine.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I got to see an issue.
Yeah, it's fun. It really looks like you're reading a magazine. Even has the sound of pages turning, which I thought
Uh-huh.
was adorable. And and the layout is beautiful. The photography is really beautiful.
Hmm.
The cover will always be something really striking, like the cover image. We've sort of set the standard with the first one. There'll always be a piece of art on the cover, and then it'll be always in a really interesting dynamic sort of setting, like really graphic. So the next one is going to be stunning too. I wanted it to have that look, right down to the
Yeah.
font. It was very important to me. The font was specific. And
Of
yeah,
course.
now that we've done 2 issues, we sort of have a bit of a rhythm. In the beginning, I started working on the issue that was coming up. Now I'm starting to work on further ahead because I realized you can't do that. That takes too long.
There's
So
so
now
much.
so I'm populating things for like next issue already, and then I'm going to
Hmm.
start populating the issue for next spring. And I'm just trying to highlight really interesting artists, really interesting design things. We're going to be part of Design TO this year, so we're one of the host galleries, and so we'll
Wow,
be in
congrats.
there. A lot of interesting things. Interior design show that's happening in January. So I want to do really interesting profiles of things in the fashion sphere. I've done a couple of people that are like Canadian designers, and another really cool guy, JP Michaels. That's the one that was in my last issue. He's a stylist and he's always dressed to the max and looks so cool. There's a lot of interesting people in this world. And then we also did the summer issue. We did quite a big profile on 2 different spaces in the county, because the county is like art central,
I
right?
love it.
So, and we're very involved there in the arts as well. So, I wanted to make sure to talk about the county, as if people haven't been to the county yet, it's absolutely a stunning place. So,
We have one more thing in common now because
yes.
so my thesis at OCAD, I created an editorial piece. I created a
Oh,
magazine
oh,
and
cool.
I love editorial. Like when I was in school, I was convinced I'm going into editorial design. Like I want, even though at the time, I graduated in 2011, print was already dead or was dying,
Yes.
but I love to do it. And I think the thing that is the most, bringing it back in the idea of community, the thing that I love the most about it was, and which now that I'm saying it out loud, like I'm realizing that the podcast is also this
Yes.
platform that we're
Yes.
creating to highlight other creatives. To me,
Yes.
it's not really about me. Like I just love
Yeah.
featuring, I love talking to people, I love hearing about what's going on in the world. And
Yeah.
it's the same avenue that you're doing, and
Yes. It's very
there's
similar.
putting it together. Like I remember when I was, I put in like the final piece was like the first edition, right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
had real articles, I had people writing, I had people do illustrations, I featured my friends who were
Oh,
creatives.
that's cool.
Everything was like authentic in it. It was all original content. And so
Hmm.
knowing I did one and that took me a year to do. I can't imagine doing 4 a year. That's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
it's big hats off to my wonderful social media guy, Anthony, because we work very closely together on it,
Mhm.
and he really helps me with the layout and things like that, because I just wouldn't be able to do it
You
myself. The
need a
time,
team.
yeah, it's a lot of work, but we're in a rhythm now, so it feels like it's easier to do it. And he also does all of our social media, because that's a lot of work too, like
Oh yeah.
Instagram. And but you have to do those things. That's very important.
You got to play the game.
Unfortunately, I know I wish it wasn't so, really, but social media, it is unfortunately a really big way of getting known and people seeing you, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
We talked a little bit about this at the beginning and
Hmm.
throughout. You have a magazine out, you are a photographer, you own the gallery, like you have so many different
Hmm.
elements that have led you to today. And
Hmm.
so let's talk about the multi hyphenate.
Yes.
All right. And so
Okay.
now that
Yes.
you're at this stage of your life, like you're pursuing a clothing brand and you're DJing
Yes.
now. And
Yes,
so
I
like
am.
first of all, I love that you're DJing. Like
Yes.
I
I love DJing too. I love it.
so I'm gonna honest
It's
on
so
like
much fun.
I have been told by so many of my friends that I also need to do this. I it's never gonna happen. But like
Yeah,
once
it's a
again,
lot
it's
of
this
fun.
thing that I'm like, there's like a
Yeah.
through line with both of us.
Yes.
How did you get to this point? Like that you're like, you know what, F- it, let's just do this.
So, well, with the clothing, for example, so in our apartment, I've my own sewing room because I've been a sewer and clothing maker for many years. I make a
Mhm.
lot of my own things, and I've always done that.
I love it.
And it's kind of because I took a pattern drafting course because I really wanted to be able to draw it and make it. That's basically the way I wanted to do
Yes.
it. Pattern drafting is not easy. Like there's a lot around it. So I actually went to George Brown continuing ed fashion program and I took a pattern drafting course and also lots of YouTube because YouTube's amazing.
For
I mean,
everything.
I am love YouTube. I'm a huge YouTube person. I learn a lot from different, creators in both the DJ world and the fashion world. So I honed my skills on the pattern drafting, and I got more and more into it. I started making clothes that I would wear to events, like a Snap or the CGLCC Black and White Gala, whatever.
Mhm.
And people were asking me where I got things. And Kelly was like, "You really got to think about something like here because people are really liking what you're wearing."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe I should try to see about creating something, like launching something. Well, that was 2016, and I've been at it ever since. So it's not an easy process because I'm very busy during the day, and I really have to. My business comes first, so I have to work around the time.
Yes.
And so usually at night, I'm in my sewing room or working on something. It's gotten more challenging since we opened the county because we're pretty
Right.
much every weekend in the county now.
Yeah.
So Kelly's suggesting that I move my sewing room into the county because I have more time there.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, I just literally finished my brand, like my final piece for my collection, and I'm now at the stage where I have to photograph everything, which I'll do myself, and
Love
then
it.
put it up and everything, and it'll be made to order. I'm not interested in doing wholesaling because I don't want to carry like inventory. I just want to do like a made to order, which is a bit more, special. I have a very dear friend who I profiled in the first issue, Dan DeWeer, who's House of DeWeer. He's a fashion designer and he's been extremely supportive and helpful to me as well. So I'm getting closer and closer. So I'm hoping 2026, which will be my 65th birthday, which I'm okay with that.
Love
It is
that.
like I want in my 65th year to finally be able to say, okay, it's ready and done. And
Mhm.
it's called Decal, like Raquel with a D. And the reason I called it that is because my something else about Kelly and I were huge Dachshund lovers. Okay, so we've had three Dachshunds over the course of our relationship, and our first one, her name was Decal. She's a little black and tan one. When she passed away, I had her for even before I met Kelly, so it was heartbreaking. Of course, she was 16, so it was going to be inevitable. I decided to honor her by calling my clothing label Decal. We
Oh,
used to say she was such a beautiful dame, like from the
yes.
30s, that kind of
Yeah.
word. She was such a, elegant.
How she held
And
herself.
oh yes, and we have an image of her we have a little wall of Dachshund pieces, and we have a very dear friend of ours photographed her and painted over the photograph and put pearls on her, diamond necklace on her and
You
stuff.
got to send me this. I want to see
Yeah, I'll
it.
send you a picture. She definitely was a beautiful and she was wonderful. So anyway, now we have one. We lost one in May, which was also very heartbreaking because it was so sudden. But now we're putting all our energy into our little guy Duff, and he's sleeping on the couch right now. I'm looking at him. So Dakel is my clothing line. Kelly put it really well one day when I was really feeling down about how long it was taking me. She said, "You know what? Think about it this way. It is like you're getting your master's in 1 hour a week
Yeah.
over the course of how long, right?"
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that is right,
Hmm.
because it is like that. Master's degree takes a long time, right? There's
Yes.
so many elements. And if you're working full time, you only have this much time to devote to it. So that made me feel a bit better when I was thinking about, like, oh my goodness, it's taking so long, and nobody's putting the pressure on me except me.
Hmm.
you know
100%. I totally
we
get
always do
that.
that to ourselves, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, so that's the clothing line. The
Hmm.
DJing is another story, and this is something I've always wanted to do. And
I've been waiting to talk to you about this. I'm like, I want to get
so,
into it.
so the DJing is very interesting because years ago, before we moved into this building, we had a break from this building, but we were living in a loft space on College in Little Italy there.
Hmm.
And Kelly had her table set up in the living room, and it was like work live space, and she had her clients there and things like that. And I was still shooting, so I wasn't really involved with her business until we got into business together. There was a Bar Italia across the street, and Bar
Hmm.
Italia every Friday, Saturday night had DJs, and we used to sometimes go and sit at the bar and have a drink and a snack. And the DJ and I started talking a lot just because I was very fascinated with it. And one day he took me up to his booth and he showed me all the bells and whistles, and and I just thought, "Oh man, I want to do this so bad." First of all, I'm a huge house fan and have been for many years, many
Yes.
years. And it has not changed as I have gotten older. As a matter of fact, I've gotten even more into house, and I like techno too, but lesser. I'm much more house, deep
House is where it's
house.
at.
Yeah. But I do, like I went to see Fisher not that long ago. It was awesome. He's awesome. But
He's great.
and I love Tomorrowland. I love watching it on YouTube. And
Hmm.
anyway, these whole house scenes. So, and he used to play house. So that was the other thing. And I was like, oh man, would I love to try this? So that was like before we started business. So 16 years ago. And so I would say about 10 years, no, 11 years ago, just before COVID, on my 60th birthday, I decided, okay, I am going to do this. I'm just going to do this because I was watching some DJs on YouTube, and I really wanted to learn it. So my sister had a really good friend who is a DJ and who does private DJ lessons. And I booked with him, and I did two sessions, like two blocks of sessions, and basically to learn how to use the controller, how to beat
Yeah.
match,
So
how
you
to,
know what to do.
all those things, which even then you still have to practice a lot, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
but he was great, and he's to this day he always sends me messages, super supportive, and basically learned from him. And every weekend I was renting equipment from Long and McQuaid, and shout out to them, they're amazing people over on Bloor Street. One day I walked in, and one of the people behind the counter, and I told her this a couple of weeks ago when I was renting speakers, I said to her, you were pivotal for a lot of things for me. And she says, oh, I
Hmm.
was. And I said, you were so kind, because when I came in one day to rent, she says, you know what, you come in all the time and rent. I have a demo model that is like going for really reasonable, and a monitor, which is your speaker that sits beside you. And I can give you these for, I can't remember what she offered me. And I said, sold. That is
Done.
amazing. So I had it. And I told her that a couple of weeks ago, and she goes, oh, I'm so glad I made such a difference. And I said, no, really, you did. And to be honest with you, I used to go in there sheepishly thinking, they're looking at me with my gray hair, and they're like, oh, this older lady or whatever. I always think people are judging me, but I'm judging myself.
One
You know what I mean?
thousand percent.
Isn't that so funny? So anyway, and she's been like, she's
Yeah.
so kind and letting me, giving me encouragement by doing that. And now I like, whenever I need speakers or whatever, I always rent it from them. And there was a Long McQuaid in Belleville, so if I need them in the county, it's
Hmm.
easy. Anyway, so now then I bought my own equipment, and I was practicing a lot, and I just kept practicing. And in the beginning, I was just streaming music, but and now like I've basically stopped doing that. Now I buy my own music, and I'm always on the hunt for new, really cool edits and things. So I'm always listening, and my Shazam's my best friend. I'm always
Uh-huh.
Shazamming. what happened, and so oddly, this is the best thing that could ever happen to me, is the fact that in Prince Edward County, specifically, well, Picton and Prince Edward County,
Hmm.
there's a big house scene there, which is amazing,
Would never
right?
know
You
it.
would not know that. And that is the reason, because there's a fellow there, Ree, who used to own a gallery, and he's a DJ, and he manages the DJs at the base, which is the army base that's being converted into a big arts and culture hub up there. It's
Amazing.
called Base 31, and they have an area called the commissary, which is big shipping containers turned into like food vendors and bars and things. Very cool space. And every Friday, Saturday night over the summer, they have DJs, and Ree is the one responsible for all the DJs, and he gave me a big chance there, and I played my first big gig there in July, the 26th of July. I was terrified because I was on stage, and like, I was worried because here I was, and I really worked on my set, and wanted to make sure that I was playing like only the best of the best of what I love, and it was really good. My set was 2 hours, and I was like about half an hour into my set, I just felt really relaxed because I could feel it was going well.
Yeah.
And then he hired me again for an August gig, and then I did another thing in a park. The more I'm doing it, and I also have a very good friend out there who has an Airbnb that sleeps 10 people, and oftentimes when he's there, I'll go over for a visit because he's got a beautiful pool in the backyard and everything. It's called Dragonfield House. Shout out to Dragonfield House.
Okay.
Fabulous place. Fabulous place. And I always bring my decks when I go there. He's a good friend, and there's always a bunch of people, and I just play. Like, it's like, I just playing and having fun. So every time I play, I consider it practice. Every
Yeah, of
time I play.
course.
So this past weekend was Cabbagetown Festival, and we closed off Ontario Street right beside our business. And I asked a friend of mine if he would guest DJ with me, and the two of us played Saturday and Sunday, and we took turns. He's on vinyl, which is even cooler,
That's
and
amazing.
I was on the decks, and he's more techno and I'm more house. So it was perfect
A
fit,
great
right?
balance.
Yeah. So it was great. We had speakers out on the street, people walking by, stopping to dance, moving on, because it was a big festival.
Hmm.
But the more I play and the more I practice, the more confident I'm feeling. And the other reason I stopped streaming my music is because if you stream, you can't actually do a recording and upload it on SoundCloud or anything like that.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm a SoundCloud. I have an account, and I have all my playlists on there, but all of them are private right now because I'm using it as my holding. I use it as my sort of research holding,
Okay.
and then I buy all my music either on some of the bigger platforms. My music library is getting bigger and bigger. So, and now I'm planning to start doing a few recordings, and I recently started my own Instagram page because people have been telling me you got
Yeah,
to do that, but
I
it's
was gonna
still
ask.
it's private right now because I actually hired this amazing photographer, Wade Muir. I hired him last week to do some more shots of me that would be more suited to that, because the funny story is when Ree asked me for photos for the summer, a
Hmm.
headshot. I sent him my headshot, which,
Yeah.
is a headshot for
Yeah.
like LinkedIn. And when he put it beside the other DJ that was playing that night, I started laughing. I said to Kelly, "Oh, this can't be anymore. I got to get something better than this,
Something more catered to.
something more suited, right?" So I asked Wade if he would be kind enough, and we did some cool stuff last week, and I'm just waiting to see them. But I think once I get those, I'm going to start being a bit more, pursuing that a bit more.
Hmm.
Again, it always comes down to time for me. Truthfully,
Yeah.
it's really time. I mean, I would love to just spend unlimited time, but at the moment, I just don't have it. So I have to kind of like just play with it. But I am taking the next steps to that because, it's feeling better and more excited about it. So yeah,
I'll say this though, I have mad respect for it. Even though, like, so many people can say, "I just don't have time. I don't have the time." But then here you are, you're running a business. You're like, "I'm also gonna do clothing. I'm also gonna do
yeah,
DJ. I'm gonna DJ."
yeah,
To me, that I have mad respect for it because I'm exactly the same. I want
yes,
to do everything.
everything. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I gotta ask, because I'm a house head through and through. Like
Oh yeah,
I, this is why I'm like, we gotta talk because if ever now that I know this, I will be sending you music
Oh,
because I have
great.
my sister and I were really annoying. In the
Oh,
best way,
I
where we're constantly sharing music,
oh,
and
I would
so
love that because
okay.
if I like it, I will go buy it then. You know what I mean? That's how I'm doing it now. So,
And so
yeah.
what are you playing right now? Like what are your go-tos that you're like, okay,
So
this is in your head?
So I love UK garage. So
S-
I love Mike Milrain. He's one of my favorite DJs. You may know this. It's called
Yeah.
deepradio.com. I'm a huge fan. Okay. So
You're speaking to my soul
I
right now.
love deepradio.com. And there's a DJ there that plays Saturday nights called DJ Sai, SI. He has an English accent, as does Mike Milrain, who actually is based in London or like outside of London, but he's in England. And I looked up DJ Sai thinking he was also in England because I was a huge fan of what he was playing. Turns out he lives in Guelph. And I was so excited to see that. And a couple of times I've commented on him, and he's commented on me, but through Akasha's thing. And I'm really influenced by people like him and Mike Moraine. I love some of these really deep house producers like Seb Jr. from Spain. I love his music. There's a lot of really strong, really good producers in Italy and Spain right now. I love really deep house, like really good
A
dancey,
dirty, dirty beat.
dirty dancey, and I love really I do like melodic house too. Doesn't always work in with my sets, but if it's an early evening thing, I would do a little more melodic. But I
Hmm.
also like the vibes of a DJ that I've been following on YouTube called Gentleman. I don't know if you know him.
No, I don't.
He spells it like GNTLIN, and he's a producer DJ, and
Okay.
he has these really velvety, deep house sounds that I'm really, really drawn to. I love
Mm.
it. Funnily enough, I'm starting to play around with garage band. I know Ableton is very difficult to learn, and that's to produce your own house tracks.
Mm.
I have some ideas of playing with layering sounds and creating acapellas from things. I've been playing around
Mm.
with that. It's a little technical, but there's a thing called stems in my DJ software that isolates vocals and the kick drum and the melody and the bass. So you can basically isolate a vocal and then take that and layer it over another track, kind of thing.
Yes.
And I've been playing around with that quite a bit, and that's really fun too. But you got to play around to see if things work, right? And
Yeah, of course.
so I'm kind of thinking about that because there's a DJ in the county that I played with one night, and I really like what he does. And he takes a lot of like maybe a commercial track that's top 40 or something, and he'll layer it over a deep house, and it's just blows my mind. Like it sounds so good, and he's really good at that. Like he knows how to do all that. He's a musician too, so he knows how to use all those
Hmm.
controls. But him, I'm really inspired by him too. And I listen to a lot of music, a lot. Like I've always got house on or chill house, any form. I love watching DJs on YouTube. Like
I love it.
I'm not necessarily a fan of the music, but I love James Hype. I think I just love the energy he brings to every
He's
set.
wild.
He's amazing, and he creates like while he's flying from New York to Ibiza, he's creating a track on the plane.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has his own YouTube channel that's all about his back scenes, and he just
Hmm.
seems like a really nice, humble guy. Like he does not seem demanding of his team or anything, and he's just so. I just love watching it and
Yeah.
watching him play. I mean, it is like that'll never happen for me. Like that is he is like it is
Next
unbelievable.
level.
Next level. Like to have that much hand control constantly, like,
Just the way that and the creation of those sounds, and
oh,
it's 100% he's
yeah.
legitimate. Like,
He
and
oh,
I also love that him and Tita Lau, like they're like the couple, his
oh, they're
wife,
so
girlfriend, whatever.
sweet. They
I
are. No,
know.
they're fiancés now, I think.
Yeah.
They're getting married, but
I love
no,
that we're
together.
talking about this. This is giving me life right now. Like I'm
Right? No, it's
obsessed.
so
Oh my
true.
god, Sonia.
Yeah. Well, I love the whole scene. First of all, the biggest thing I can say about house music is it just makes me happy.
Oh,
It's
same.
a very happy sound, and I love dancing. Kelly and I love dancing. We both are the same in that, and we both love house music. Moving your body
Yes.
is very important. I've been athletic most of my life, and I find whenever I'm able to move my body, it just makes me feel really good physically,
Hmm.
right? Music just makes you happy. I just feel like, and and it's the same for anybody. If you're into country music and you love country dancing, it makes you happy, right? It's the
Yeah,
same thing. It's just the sounds are different, right? So I think I got a lot of that from my home because there was lots of jazz in our house, and lots of Diana Ross was big, always playing on our at
iconic.
home. And yeah, iconic stuff, Barbara Streisand, people like that. And then, Miles Davis, constantly, Coltrane. This is what I grew up with. And, and I never, I did early on. My father was pushing me to learn how to play flute because my father played sax and flute, but I did for a little bit, but it just didn't interest me as much, so I really, now my music interest has always been in the house world, and I love going to events where there's music like that. But now I'm excited that I'm actually doing the
Yeah,
music.
a
So,
hundred.
and I'm certainly not ready for a festival or anything. I don't feel like that yet, but I do feel like I'm taking baby steps, and I'm loving it. And the best compliment I got was, I got a message on Instagram from someone who works in a bar in the West End, and asked me, where do I normally play?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I said, well, I don't, this is just, sideline. And she said, oh my God, that was one of the best sets I've heard in a long time. And I work in a
Oh,
club with a DJ. And I was like, oh my God, are you real? I said to her, thank you so much for saying that. That just really boosted my confidence a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask because I
Yes.
know that you have some stuff on private, but like I would love to hear. Like, also, what's your DJ name? Will
Oh,
you say
okay.
it?
This is a cute story.
Uh
Yes.
huh.
My DJ name is DJ Yaya. It's
Okay.
spelled Yaya. And the reason for that is my little niece, our little goddaughter niece, Kelly's sister's child. When she was a baby, she couldn't say the word Sonia. She used to call me Yaya. And to
Mm.
this day, she's now 10, and she calls me Yaya to this day, is my
That's
nickname.
so cute.
So when I started DJing, and Kelly and I were very involved, we're very involved as godparents and aunts with her. And when I decided to come up with a name, I said to her, I'm going to call myself DJ Yaya for you, because I used to, when she was little, like 4 or 5, I used to practice on the decks, and she'd be dancing away and everything. So I kind of thought, I'm gonna, you know, she always wanted to hear, like when she got a little like 7, 8, it was always like, can you play Kylie Minogue? Can you play Katy Perry? Can you play, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Uh, what, oh, now I lost her name, the big one. And,
Gaga,
you know, uh,
Madonna,
the girls, all the girls love her,
Spice Girls. Oh,
no, the one that was just, oh my God, sorry, I'm having a moment.
Lady Gaga.
No, no, she just got engaged to a football player.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Yes,
Hmm.
that one. Hilarious. It's like charades.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah, no, and so I used to play like those things for her, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I said to her, when I do it, I will, call myself after your name, DJ Yaya. So,
Just hearing you talk about these new paths that you take, you're
mhm.
dedicating them to these influences in your life, these people, like whether
Yes,
it's the clothing
very
line
much.
or
Yes.
your DJ name, like
Yeah.
you're not making it about you. Like
No, it's
you're
more,
bringing
it's more.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, a cute story. Recently, my goddaughter really likes clothes too. And,
Mm.
and it's very cute because since early age, I was always very much doing things, and like I've made her some things. And I bought her a little mini sewing machine when she was young, and she would bring it into my room and sew with me while I was sewing, the kind that they don't have needles. And now she's at the age that I'm actually letting her practice some sewing on my machine, and she's so excited about it. Well, I decided to surprise her because I figured 10, like she's pretty mature for
She's
10.
old enough, yeah.
She's old enough now. So Fashion Week was on in the fall, in
Love
like the
it.
spring Fashion Week, and I surprised her with tickets. So I took her to Fashion Week, her and we had a blast. We got so dressed up, and she's got impeccable fashion sense for 10 years old. Like she'd always show me what she's wearing, like when she'd have her whole week of clothes planned out for school. And
Love
so
that.
she's very much into clothes and stuff like that. So anyway, she basically styled herself here, and it was amazing. She looked so cool. And we went there, and her eyes were like this big, and the best part was that we, even though we had general tickets, they moved us to the front row. I just thought, oh my God, what an
Amazing.
amazing experience for her, right? So it was really, really fun. It's all Canadian fashion running down that runway. It was very cool. So we had a lovely evening together, her and I, just like exploring that event. So
I'm not to make this about me, but we have another thing in common. I brought
oh,
my sister was 13 years old, and I had a collab that I did for Fashion Week in 2012, and
oh,
I got to bring her to the runway show. My parents as well, but to see like my little 13-year-old sister, so it's once again another parallel.
it's so cool. It is. I mean, I think it's really a fun thing to do. I know how much I was influenced by other
Yes.
people in my life at that young age when you're like around there. Her developing this clothing thing was just natural, right? Like, it's really nice to see that she just enjoyed, like, she loves Project Runway, and we
Mhm.
watch it together,
Mhm. Are you watching the
you
new
know,
season?
I just finished. Yeah, I love it. I
Mhm.
apparently Project Runway Canada is coming back.
Well, on that note, that's literally who. So, Sunny Fong, who I don't.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's who I did the collab with in 2012,
Oh my
and
God,
that's
with
I.
his Voc line.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah, it was
fabulous.
spring summer 2013, I think.
Oh, I remember when Sunny won.
Mhm. I know
Yes.
that's how I first saw him,
Yeah.
and then I remember I ran into him at Fly nightclub, and
Oh
we
yes.
started chatting, and then that's where it came from, and then I was like 24 years old when we did that.
So cool. And is it true? Is he going to be a host or something for Runway Canada, or is there some other? Is there? I heard there was some. I don't know if he is, but I thought I heard that Project Runway Canada was going to get revived.
I would love that. I think it would be so
Wouldn't that be
amazing.
great?
I love
Yeah.
seeing Canadians thrive. This world is so like US heavy that I'm like, let the Canadians
No,
do their thing.
no. And there are some amazing fashion designers
Oh
and
yeah.
talent in fashion in Toronto, like in Canada, but Toronto for sure. Like, I have to honor Toronto Fashion Week because they really have done a fabulous show in bringing it back and showcasing the clothes, like really good. They have lots of different designers and emerging designers, and it was really a great event when we went. So,
We've talked about
so many things.
fashion. We've talked about music. We've talked about art, photography, queer life in general. Like we've talked about so many things. Now,
Yeah.
at the end of every episode, I like to ask all of my guests the same question.
Okay.
And, you can answer this in any direction. You can go personal, professional, whatever. But if you were
Hmm.
to look at the trajectory of your life and say like what is the most on brand thing about you?
The most on brand, I think, is definitely I rarely underdress. And
Uh-huh.
I have a very cute little funny story about that.
I love it.
Kelly's sister and her wife, our little goddaughter. This was like when she was only 3 or something. Went to a Christmas tree farm, and they were going to cut down a Christmas tree. And so they said, we're all going to go on this, and you ride on the back of a truck with hay bales. So I said, oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I was thinking, but I got really dressed up for this event.
You're like, I'm showing up.
I was wearing a cap, a shawl, boots, cute boots, and everything. Honestly, I looked like I was on the highlands of somewhere in London, in England, like
Obsessed.
when I showed up to their place to go together, they looked at me like, are you kidding us right now?
And you're like, yeah, this is what
This
this
is
is what
my
I'm
outfit.
Yes.
Yes. And Kelly, to this day, she got a picture of me on the back. There I was, dressed like that, sitting on the back of like this truck with hay bales all over it. And it was, to this day, we get a kick out of laughing about that because, yeah, that's me. I'm always the overdressed. Like, I'm invited to something and it's like, oh, it's casual. Oh, I don't know that word.
I don't understand what that means. I'm not doing that.
So that was the funniest thing. That story, I kind of haven't lived it down because they bring it up at family dinners and stuff, and we laugh about it. But that is definitely the most on brand for me is
I love it.
dressing. Yeah.
I could learn a thing or two from you. I'm a casual girl. I'm casual Kelly. Let's just say
Oh, that's cute. That's
that.
cute.
Listen, Sonia, you are iconic to me. I think you
Oh,
are
you're
so
sweet.
inspirational. This is my last episode of season one. What an amazing guest to have. You've really like
Oh, thank
showed
you.
out for me. This has really meant the world. Like honestly, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with me. I mean, you're now officially my longest interview.
Oh,
And
geez.
no, I'm loving it. I'm like, please speak. Let's do like a Joe Rogan where it's 3 hours long. I would
Oh
love to
my
do
goodness. Wow. Yeah, right,
that.
right. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me, and your words are very kind. Thank you so much. This has been really fun chatting with you.
Yeah,
It did
I
it
love
did
it.
feel like we were just having a coffee.
I told you, right? I'm like, don't worry. It's just it's very lackadaisical.
It's very fun. So thank you very much again.
You're welcome. And so to anyone listening, if they want to connect with Akasha, they want to connect with you as, an emerging DJ. As they want, I know it's all private, but
Yeah.
if they want to connect with the fashion line, like where can
Yeah.
they, or the magazine, like where can they connect with you?
Well, definitely they can connect with me through Akasha Art Projects, which I'm always there. And, I have my direct email is basically on, like, everything's on the website.
Hmm.
But personally, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time too. And I don't have anything yet with the decal or the DJ thing personally yet. That's to come, but you can always send me messages on LinkedIn.
Amazing. And I'll put all that in
Yeah.
the show notes so that it'll all be connected and people can click.
Okay. Okay, great. And I'll make sure to let you know when I'm playing next.
Next time I'm in Toronto, like
Yeah.
we have to get together, but
Yes.
also I will absolutely if you're performing, I'm gonna be there.
Okay, sounds good. I'll
I
let you
love
know.
it. Oh my god. Oh, and once again, thank you so much for being part of the show. It means the
Okay.
world to me.
Yeah, thank you very much. And don't forget to send me that music because I'm
Uh,
excited to listen.
You sent me your number, so I will add you. I'll send you a
Okay,
text after this, and then I
great.
will we'll connect.
Sounds
But
good. Okay. Thank you
and
very much.
you're welcome. And to anybody who's looking to connect with me over design, you can reach out to me through geographic.com. Follow the podcast on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Like, comment, subscribe, all of the above. I'm still new, so I would love the boost in the algorithm. And Sonia, once again, I want to thank you for being part of graphic content. We're wrapping season one, and we'll be back in a little while with season two. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.